Hey there, it's Mazzy. Single live albums. That's what this is about. How simple is that? So, the inspiration for this, I was reading a thread on the Hoffman Music Forums. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google the Steve Hoffman Music Forums. There's a thread on this album. This is Warren Zevon's Stand in the Fire, recorded live at the Roxy Theater in LA. This came out in 1980. This is a fantastic, ballsy, bare bones, almost punkish record for Warren Zevon. The Manic Man just did a great job. And a lot of people who follow Warren and who follow live albums, this is a fan favorite also. And it goes beyond the normal audience of Warren Zevon's songwriting. If all you know is Werewolves of London, you gotta listen to this this album. Now, the reason I bring this up, because Run Out Groove, I pre-ordered this album, I think it was last year, and it finally came out. It's a limited edition. It's a double album, and it's an expanded version of this, and it has pretty much the entire show, I think. So it's over 2 discs. So I'm not showing this, but in that thread, someone wrote a comment that, you know, when this came out, it was rare. There weren't a lot of great single live albums. So that got me to think about it. And to me, it wasn't a heavy burden to think about this and come up with single live albums. So that's what this video is about. Now, I've made my own rules, self-contained, self-policed, that pretty much they're going to be records that came out at the time, not posthumous records, because there are a lot of records like Television Live at the old Waldorf and Pearl Jam at the Easy Street Records, and a lot of single things that came out, and all these Doors records that are being reissued from the Matrix, and a lot of clubs, and I'm not including those. Now, maybe as we proceed, you'll see I broke my own rules on occasion, but I think these are all fantastic live records. I'm not showing any jazz records because there's so many jazz records, and that's a whole different thing. So it's rock, pop, soul, and one omission I know right off the bat, Bob Marley Live. I don't have a copy of that anymore. I used to have an import, and oh my God, during my mid-90s purge, I got rid of it. So anyway, so starting out with this was the influence. And also, to get off my chest, because I'm breaking my own rules, I'm going to show these 2 records. And those of you who know these 2 records know why. These are double albums, but one LP is live, one LP is studio. Fantastic live, jammy versions of the Byrds with Clarence White and Gene Parsons, Skip Batton, and Roger McGuinn, and of course, Cream, Wheels of Fire, with the studio album and the great live set at Winterland. But maybe I should have shown this. In the UK, after the fact, they split these records up, and this was the Wheels of Fire Cream. This is the live album. So live at the Filmore, it was a single album. So, I mean, but it wasn't originally released. It was the foil cover, but great record from 1968. Anyway, let's proceed. Okay, no particular order. This is not a best of. This is not ranked album. So let's start with this interesting record from, was it 1969 and this is Live Peace in Toronto. Now, the American version, I'm not sure if it came with the UK version, came with this calendar. So for years, even into the 70s, you'd have the shrink wrapped in here, and it was always thick in the bins. And some of these got damaged. This was a was it 1969, probably 1970 calendar of John and Yoko. And still have a couple copies of this. It came with Live Peace in Toronto with Alan White, Eric Clapton, Yoko Ono, John Lennon. Crazy, wild record. Kind of loose, kind of funky, kind of drug-fueled. Entire side 2 is Don't Worry, Kyoko, Mommy's Only Waiting for Her Hand in the Snow, and John, Let's Hope for Peace, featuring Yoko. But the rock and roll version of Blue Suede Shoes, Money, Dizzy Miss Lizzie, Cold Turkey, Give Us a Chance. fantastic, raw live album from John Lennon and company. Great record, Delaney and Bonnie and Friends. I have actually a promo copy here. Great record with Eric Clapton, Dave Mason. The rumor has it those are Dylan's boots, but I don't think that's the case. Someone's going to challenge me or correct me or just go with it. George Harrison did go on this tour. I don't believe he's on this record. I love Delaney and Bonnie. White soul, southern blues, not in the realm of Allman Brothers and Marshall Tucker, but more in the soulful, like the band in a way, even though they're not kind of the southern blues. They have that Americana kind of rootsy sound. An amazing record, great live record. Highly suggest you pick it up. Jefferson Airplane, I've showed this so many times, one of the great single album and one of the great rock records of the San Francisco scene. Bless His Point Little Head. There's Jack Cassidy in the Jefferson Airplane Mansion at 2400 Fulton Street. Live songs, Leonard Cohen. This is various shows put together on a live album. The great folk singer. Now, this is a twofer. Of course, I was going to pick one, and I thought, what the heck. Johnny Cash, the Prison albums, live at San Quentin, which is just across the bay from San Francisco, Marin County, and live at Folsom Prison. Of course, this one had the hit A Boy Named Sue, which was the novelty song written by Shel Silverstein. Huge, huge hit, censored on this album. The later box set of the CD and vinyl, I think it's uncensored as I recall. But these are both amazing live. The energy of Johnny and June and the band and his band is amazing. There is an expanded CD set with the Statler Brothers and the whole show, the whole prison show. An album favorite of mine, 1976 concert that I attended at the Great American Music Hall, Rycooter. This is Showtime Chicken Skin Review. This has the great Flaco Jimenez on here. It's got just great vocals by Eldridge King, Terry Evans, Bobby King, who backed Rycooter on several tours around this time, even later. But I saw Rycooter probably 6 times at the Great American Music Hall from 1976 to as recent as 3 years ago. Incredible guitar player. This is a great single live album. Creedence Clearwater, live at the Royal Albert Hall. No, it's not. This is the original pressing of this album. This was posthumous after they actually split up, but it was still put out in 1980. So, it's in the ballpark. What happened is the tapes were mislabeled or something got screwed up, and this was actually recorded at the Olden Coliseum. So later pressings of this say the concert. I think it says Creedence Clearwater, the concert, something like that. This is the first pressing, even though it says Royal Albert Hall. It's recorded in Oakland. This is a fantastic record. This is Donovan in concert. This is recorded at Anaheim, Southern California, very close, right adjacent to Disneyland. And this is a beautiful record. Now, there was a later CD edition that had the entire concert. And I think the main reason this wasn't put out as a double album early on was because a lot of the songs he hadn't recorded yet or released on a proper studio album, but he was playing them live. So it's like kind of Neil Young with Massey Hall. He performed songs that weren't on the next album. So, why let those out of the bag first? But I'd love to see an expanded LP, like a record store day or something of this. But this is a fantastic record. He's introduced by his father. Just a beautiful recording and really, really wonderful musicians on this with Donovan. Again, produced by Mickey Most, who produced most of his 60s, all of his 60s records, as well as some Yardbirds records and Herman's records. Fantastic. Now, there are a lot of, the thing is, in the 60s and 70s, the double album, the live album, was a big deal. So many records, so many amazing live albums. came out as a double album. And that, a lot of people thought that's the way they should be, because a concert usually ran 90 minutes to 2 hours plus in those days. And you can't really capture the essence. But obviously, I'm proving that theory wrong, because these are all fantastic albums that just you got the great bits of that live show. Now, 11-17-70 or 17-11-70, depending on which continent you're on. Fantastic, live in a studio, but live in a, like, it was a live broadcast for radio. And this is a fantastic show of the great trio of Nigel Olsson, Dee Murray, and Elton John. I saw him at this period, maybe a year out. I think I saw him in 72. It was my first show of his at the Berkeley Community Theater. Fantastic showmanship. The energy, the raw energy he had at this point is pretty amazing. Now, there was a record store day later on, expanded, that has the entire concert. I'm just showing this just to give you an edge, but you can't go wrong on this. It's an amazing, powerful piano-based live album, but the drumming, the bass, great power trio. You don't think of, it's not just that easygoing Elton, although you have the great songs of Elton John too. Here's another case of a similar situation. The debut album by Hot Tuna, of course, Jorma Kaukonen and Jack Cassidy from the Jefferson Airplane did a side project that really expanded, almost in some ways in the 70s especially, superseded what the Jefferson Airplane were doing. Hot Tuna, blues bass, acoustic. This was recorded in Berkeley, California at the New Orleans House in 1969. Later, the record store day, The Vault, came out with the expanded entire show, I believe. And this is the entire show. So this is the double album, but you can't go wrong with this. Amazing blues folk record by Hot Tuna and their debut. Wonderful record. Bay Area band outfit. It has a little mix of Texas swing, retro sound, cowboy music, jazzy, folk, and this Dan Hicks and the Hot Licks. Live album, Where's the Money? Some humorous, wonderful banter by Dan Hicks in between some of the songs. Fantastic record, probably their best record. Even though it's a live record, it really works on Blue Thumb Records. Just love this record. Dan Hicks and the Hot Licks. Where's the Money? Now, switching the country, I'm not mixing my genres. Merle Haggard. Merle Haggard, Okie from Muskogee, recorded live in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Of course, was he riffing on the, we don't wear our hair long like they do in San Francisco, or doing drugs like they do in San Francisco, whatever it is, Okie from Muskogee. What a great record, and what a great band. And of course, he became the long-haired, dope-smoking hippie later on into the 70s and 80s and beyond. But this is a great record. The cheers, the whistles, the stomps were too much. Just great. Just the audience is just cheering him on. And it's like great redneck country, but he's not really redneck, is he? Hire the ex-con. One of the best live records recorded in San Francisco at the Filmore West is Aretha Franklin at the Filmore West. Another one I do not have is on vinyl is Otis Redding at the Filmore, and that's a great live record too. And I have it on CD, but I just wanted to stick to vinyl here. Of course, in this record, Ray Charles was there playing with him, and shows up and plays with her there. I would have died to be at this show. One of the few artists that I didn't see back in the day. Never saw Aretha Franklin, but live at the Filmore, an incredible single live album. Now, this is an interesting one to show because I'm a big fan of Niels Lofgren. Now, A&M kind of fucked up. A&M had a huge hit with Frampton Comes Alive, the double album on A&M that really catapulted him. In a way, it was a bittersweet thing because after that, it was downhill from there in a way. But I think they wanted to pattern a live album like Niels Lofgren. They put out this live authorized bootleg only to radio stations. So this was never released officially on the market. They waited like a year too late. Maybe it was like 1 or 2 years later, they put out a double live album by Niels Lofgren, and it kind of did okay, but it never catapulted him. This is a great record. This was, I think, a live radio broadcast in 1975. Niels Lofgren, of course, with his brother, started the band Grin. Then he did a great series of solo albums on A&M Records. And of course, he would go on to join the E Street Band with Springsteen, and the rest is history. But it's a great, great album. An early album, I think it's really interesting when artists do live albums early in their career. And Randy Newman, of course, wasn't selling a lot of records. He was never a big record seller on his own, but great writer. A lot of people performed his songs, including, early on, Harry Nilsson did a complete album. Nilsson Sings Newman, which is fantastic. Great composer, movie scores. You all know him from, unfortunately, the wrong songs like Short People and I Love LA. But this is a live album. This was beautifully recorded, and it's very an intimate live album. And it's got Mama Told Me Not to Come, which was a hit for Three Dog Night. So Long Dad, beautiful. Think It's Gonna Rain Today, a beautiful ballad covered by so many other people. Old Kentucky Home, Cowboy, Lonely at the Top, which was just great, great song. A great single live album, Randy Newman live. And this is from, recorded end of 1970 at the bitter end in New York. Switching it all around a little bit, Flatt and Scruggs at Carnegie Hall. I think it was great that these, Southern groups, country groups, things you wouldn't think to hear in New York City would come and play. Of course, Carnegie Hall was famous for blues and classical, and just Harry Belafonte had the great classic records, live records there. This is a great record. Flatt and Scruggs at Carnegie Hall, picking and singing, and it's just great to hear bluegrass music in New York City. New York City. Now, amongst my favorite folk artists always has been Phil Oakes, the golden voice of the folk scene in the 60s into the early 70s. He did a live record before this on Elektra Records. This was on A&M, but this only came out initially in A&M Canada. They wouldn't put it out in the US. What's amazing about this is, again, another live concert at Carnegie Hall. He showed up with this great pianist, Lincoln Mayorga, who did grazing stuff, Bob Rafkin on guitar, Kenny Coffin on bass, and Kenny Kelly on drums. Interesting thing about this, he shows up in this gold lame suit like Elvis used to wear. I would have died to be at this show. Great live album. Phil Oakes fans are won over by rock. He kind of gets rock and roll instead of this folk stuff. It's kind of like it's not like the Dylan crossover going electric, but it's a little riff on that in a way. What a wild man. Love Phil Oakes, and this is an amazing set, and I don't know if it's still available. This is actually an original pressing. I still have it in shrink rack. Bought it for $5.99. Now, one of the great live albums, single or otherwise, Get Your Ya-Ya's Out. The best live album Rolling Stones did, 1969. I saw them twice this year. I saw them at Altamont and I saw them at Oakland Coliseum. This is recorded in Madison Square Gardens. If you don't know this record, this really kind of put the Stones on another level as this great live act, at least for those of us who saw them, and for people listening to this record. Highly recommended. Get Your Ya-Ya's Out. A record that was sort of considered a comeback for them when they left Chrysalis Records. Oh, this is on Chrysalis. I'm sorry, distributed by A&M. And this is Procol Harum. This is a live album at the with the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra. I believe this is recorded in Canada, in Edmonton. Amazing sounding live album. Of course, this sported the hit version of Conquistador, which was a song from their first album. Great, great version on this. And what to me is a highlight on this record is the drumming of B.J. Wilson, underrated drummer. Listen to how this is recorded, and his drumming is just really out there in front in a good way, not bombastic. Of course, they do the entire Inheld 'Twas in I from their second album, and that's the entire suite, really kind of almost prog-like, beautiful record with the orchestra. It's a wonderful record. Should be in any collection here. Ryman Simon, of course, live Ryman. I like this record. I don't play it a lot. What's great about it is he has Urubamba, the South American like panpipe musicians on stage with him who had played like with them and on. They got influenced like the Simon and Garfunkel song El Condor Pasa, but it's they do a version of Boxer Duncan El Condor Pasa with them, and it's just really beautiful, beautifully recorded record. I always forget about this record for some reason, but it came out in 1974, so I think it was good for him to release this, and it's a great single record. Now, another amazing single live. All these are great single live albums. What am I talking about, right? The ones I missed, I want you to write down your favorite single white album, single white female, single live albums. This one, you got to count this. Stop Making Sense. It was done especially for the film, the Jonathan Demme film, the great concert film, almost like a stage show. Apparently, the story goes, Gary Getzman, who was a producer, worked with Jonathan Demme. They went to see, I think it was in Berkeley at the Greek Theater, the Talking Heads, and they decided, we got to do a film of this. We got to do a film of this. So Jonathan Demme directed this great film. An amazing recorded record, just wonderful. I mean, and I love that it's just a single record. Just, it's tight. It doesn't have any filler. Wonderful live record. Now, I could have picked a lot of Neil Young records. I mean, Massey Hall is a great choice, but as I said earlier, that came out way after the facts, and it's one of the best sounding records. But, you know, him with Crazy Horse, I mean, Russ Never Sleeps. I'd pick this one. I mean, there's, over the years, a lot more posthumous records, or what I mean posthumous by after the fact, going back and digging out from the archives a live record. But this is an incredible record, and he did a series every couple of years. Before this, he certainly did the one with the roses on the stage, and I'm blanking on the name. You can put it down, but I'll figure out later. Promo copy I got, but Russ Never Sleeps, Neil Young. Now, and a very important live album is this record, The Who, Live at Leeds. What an intense record. The Who is probably the best power trio ever. And I say that because, hey, Roger Daltrey is of course the vocal, but just think all the sound they get of just from the Ox, from John Entwistle, from Pete Townsend, and of course the drumming. I don't know how Keith Moon did that drumming. He looks like he's just manic all the time. I saw The Who the first time in 1969, early, just around the time Tommy came out at the Filmore West in San Francisco. The Woody Herman Big Band, I believe, opened up. Bill Graham had a great sense of mixing live of genres together, which is great. This record is an incredible record, obviously recorded in the UK. The original, I had this poster, this exact copy. I have two copies here. This was up in my room when I was growing up, when I was a teenager. What an amazing poster. Look at this. The Marquee Club. I love that Marquee Club. And of course, the actual record came out with all these little inserts and contracts, and the contract for Woodstock and all these delivery notices and everything. Great single live album. But since I'm showing that, and I'm kind of showing expanded, there was an expanded 3-record set, which is great, which is powerful, which contains the entire Rock Opera Tommy, or most of it, and it's good, and I love this. But the single disc is the hero here. That's the one that I think just really rock. This is great to have. I'm a big Who fan, so having the expanded one. So there you go on that. Now, The Mothers at the Filmore East, 1971. Of course, John Lennon takes some of the tapes, takes this, crosses it off, and puts it as a second live disc in sometime in New York, 1972, without Frank Zappa's permission. This is a great funky, not funky in terms of like loose, but tight rock record, crazy, wacky record. Of course, Flo and Eddie, Fluorescent Leach and Eddie, Howard Kaylan, Mark Bolan, former members of the Turtles sing all over this. This is a cool record. You also got Ian Underwood, Ainsley Dunbar, great drummer, Jim Pons, Bob Harris, and Don Preston, who's been with them, I think, since the beginning of the Mothers. you ever come visit Seattle and we go have a drink, and if we can go down to the Edgewater Hotel, right on the Puget Sound in Seattle, it's where the story of the mud shark took place. If you don't know what I'm doing, Google Edgewater Hotel, Seattle, Zappa, mud shark. Great story. They tell it on the record. And of course, they have a little section. A lot of the rock people, rock stars used to stay there. The Beatles stayed there. The Jackson 5 stayed there. The Monkees stayed there. I think Led Zeppelin stayed there. And the Edgewater Hotel was the rock place in the 70s. So there you go. Now, this is a record that's, I don't know why my copy is warped. My cover is warped, but the record's perfectly good. It was only an import, and it's an amazing record. This is Man, and this is Maximum Darkness. Now, this is the hand and guitar of John Cipollina, the great guitar player, one of the great lead guitar players of the Quicksilver Messenger Service. He had that vibrato kind of sound. He plays live with the Man Band, Welsh band, with Mickey Jones, Deke Leonard, Terry Williams, Martin Ace, and special guest John Cipollina. Fantastic live record. They do Codine. Codine's Buffy St. Marie song. Quicksilver had covered that. Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You as well. But this is recorded at the Roundhouse Chalk Farm, May 1975. I actually saw Elvis Costello at the Roundhouse. I think it was 1978. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was great. Amazing venue and amazing. If you can find this, Maximum Darkness, I don't know the availability. This is an original from 1975 or 76 UK pressing. Different cover, but this record has to be in every collection of a live single record. James Brown at the Apollo Theater. This is a 1970s reissue of the 1962 concert. This is from a San Francisco label that I knew that were in that used record shop in the mezzanine of the record store I worked at. And Solid Smoke Records. And they did some great reissues of the Shepherds, of this, of Johnny Burnett. They also issued some Roy Loney and the Phantom Movers records when he came back after working with the Flamin' Groovies years after that. But incredible, one of the most important live records of the 1960s. Now, not many people, I said, Hot Tuna, but put out a live record as their debut. And of course, Kick Out the Jams, MC5, Punk before it was punk, crazy record, wild record, very an important rock and roll record from this Detroit outfit. Very great record. Just slamming. This record is slamming. I'm not going to use slamming again. Tons of live, posthumous, and Jimi Hendrix records. The expanded box of this is pretty great. But the Band of Gypsies with Buddy Miles on New Year's Eve at the Filmore East, incredible record. The expanded box set of this is amazing. I just love that. But look at this. Incredible record, 1970, 69-70 at the Filmore East, New York City, Jimi Hendrix. I'm glad I was able to do, I was thinking, God, Jimi Hendrix didn't have any single live records. Of course he did. Band of Gypsies. I almost forgot this one. Now, same with Dylan. Dylan has a lot of live post things, and obviously the double live albums he did, the 74 tour and all that. But this is Bob Dylan's punk album too. It's kind of like, he's wilder, he's crazier. Hard Rain Tour, I saw this in Austin, this tour. I was lucky enough to see that. He's yelling, he's in white face, like the Jester. He's just yelling. This is a promo copy, white label promo copy I got at the time. This is, even if you don't like Dylan, just the intensity of these songs. It was just totally different. This isn't what the 1976 tour, totally different than when I saw him with the band in 1974. It's like 2 years, and it seems like decades between tours. Another album that became huge for this band, they had, 3-4 albums prior to this, I think 3 albums, is Cheap Trick, Live at Budokan. Great record. I Want You to Want Me. That's all I'll say. You know this record. If you don't, great power pop, great live album, wonderful recording. Another of the great live albums of 1974 is Lou Reed, Rock and Roll Animal. Great record. Fantastic guitar playing. Fantastic guitar playing. I love this record to pieces. Of course, at the end, the long versions of Rock and Roll with that kind of twangy phase shifting guitar is pretty incredible. So Lou Reed, RCA Records, 1974, great record. I mean, I think he needed to prove something after the heroin days or the down days of what he was doing with the Velvet Underground. I mean, we all love that stuff, but I mean, this really kicks ass. It does. Kicks it up a notch. Now, this record, I almost didn't include. Run on Empty, Jackson Browne. Live in concert, live on the road, recorded like on some of the buses or like in the hotel rooms and things. So it is a live record. Maybe I'm, cheating a little bit on this, but it's a fantastic record. And it's got the energy and the immediacy of a live record. And it's great you don't hear the whole audience except, when they do the loadout and stay at the end. And David Lindley does that high falsetto vocal thing at the end. It's fun. Stay. It's fun. And of course, a great acoustic, intimate version of the Gary Davis song "Cocaine." This is a really good record. Run on Empty. It just has that live feel. I think Jackson Browne's not getting a lot of love these days, but his first 5 albums on Asylum Records are all fantastic. So I'm loving that. Poco Deliverance, incredible live record. The energy you wouldn't expect. I did a shout out on another video. This is recorded live at Boston Music Hall, and Rusty Young just passed away. I'm recording this in April 2021, and he's a great pedal steel guitar player with Poco. Original member, I believe he was on just till Poco's demise. Incredible artist, incredible musician. This is a really great record. Really great live recording. Jim Messina produced it. What a great producer he was. Of course, he was on the tail end of the Buffalo Springfield, and also started producing the first solo Kenny Loggins album, and it turned into, and they became Loggins and Messina. But this stuff is really good. Live record. Love this record. Poco Deliverance. And I'm going to end up with one that's, I was going to say a lot of people don't know this one, but a lot of you who are watching this do know this one, because some of us are in the same period that were buying records in the 70s. And this is a record that everyone who loved live records and picked this up as an import, and that's 801 Live. An incredible record. This is Phil Manzanera and Eno from the Roxy Music, Francis Monkman, Simon Phillips, Lloyd Watson. Really good record. This got a lot of radio play, at least in the Bay Area, because of their cover of TNK, Tomorrow Never Knows, the Beatles song. 6 minutes, 14 seconds worth. Really amazing version. It's got Babies on Fire, the Eno song. Just love this record. It's a great sounding record. My original copy on Island, UK copy here. 801 Live, single record. Great single records. You don't need a double record. You don't need that excess applause and a 15-minute drum solo, right?